Okay guys, just a quick video on the 589. I know you've probably seen a million of them, but I wanted to just go ahead and do a quick video from a driver's perspective. I used to be a day cab driver. I drove in the military, got out of the military, drove flatbed, day cab. I never spent any legitimate time over the road. But so I just want to, Peterbilt Steve did such a great job on all his videos and everything, so I'm just doing a perspective from a driver's viewpoint and maybe show a couple things that I thought were going to be potentially important. Again, basically from the frame down is all similar to a 389, and the hood is going to seem a little bit shorter. Because the air cleaners are positioned a little bit further forward. It's very visible from inside the cab. And the reason that this cab looks a little bit shorter also is because the hood is probably a couple inches shorter due to the fact that the cab itself is longer. So the days of the being cramped and having to buy sit solo seat adapters are gone. As a matter of fact, I found myself actually trying to raise my seat up more as I was driving. I drove the truck home at dusk, facing west-southwest, and I found that I was actually trying to raise my seat a little bit to gain a little bit more shade. The other thing that doesn't look very prevalent on the videos is the angle of the hood to the front of the cab posts. And just to give you a little bit of perspective, this is a 389 light pod. They really haven't modified it, but you can see the old angle of the light pod here, and then you can see where they put the spacer on here to make sure that the 389 light pod was still facing outwards. I know that you guys have seen some spy photos on this thing here, and the new LED lights that are coming, the rectangular LED headlights. It's a little awkward at nighttime. I can try to put a picture up and picture of what this thing looks like at nighttime, with the incandescent lights being more of the natural tan or brownish colored light versus the LED strip down here, which is extremely bright. The other question I had was, at nighttime, does it turn like a lot of the vehicles now, does it turn to a amber color? And it does not. It does not blink into an amber color. So one of the things I noticed too on this hood is it's a little bit more difficult to raise up, but I think that that's because this is a validation unit or a prototype, and I believe that they just use the old springs from the 389, so when you pull it from the hood latch, it's not as easy to pull over, so I found it's easier to raise the hood up. Pitman arms are available underneath here. Your wiper motors are all available underneath here. I wanted to get in more detail on the back side of the breather. So you can see here, it's not a full round breather, it's flat on the back side. And then this is actually a Donaldson filter now, as opposed to what you're running in 389. Now what Dustin Dickerson with Dickerson Custom Trucks was telling me, that he's already come up with an idea. It's actually going to be easier to come up with a strapless kit and a breather light kit, but you just got to understand your breather lights are probably going to be mounted out here. So I just submitted some paperwork to the engineers at Peterbilt. There is no pre-wire option right now like we used to have on the 389s, where you just pull the wire harness in here and then you already have the pre-wire here. All your cab panels and light panels and everything are going to be, to my knowledge, they're going to be up underneath here somewhere. Okay, that is my understanding. So we'll see if they pass the option approval request for me to go ahead and put some sort of pre-wire on for breather lights. So that's going to be something the upfitters are going to have to deal with. Now this is a prototype visor. It's already cracked and flaking. I'm sure that they just did it to, put on the show. But I will show you up underneath the visor if you can see it. See how it bolts on there? But up above there, if you look where the bracket wraps up over the cab, it's actually bolted onto the cab instead of hucked. So my hope is that it's is difficult to put an aftermarket visor on, you guys will be able to do it on your own. I did talk to Dynaflex in Lincoln, and they're adamantly trying to figure out a way to get in front of these trucks so that they can go ahead and get something put together. I think Dynaflex is being very proactive about it, and I know that Lincoln wants to do some stuff with it as well. So going up top, a customer pointed out to me that the spacing of the top lights is more symmetrical, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do the 7 top lights. So if you're going to add more top lights, we might have to bring it in with no top lights, because where the normal 3 with the little bit of a gap between the outside ones is different. So that's one other thing that was pointed out to me. And for all you guys who wanted the air tank underneath there, the air tank is not going to be there any further. It's tucked inside the frame rail now. Okay. Again, another note from the driver's perspective, and I talked about this on my live the other day. I don't know if this stack guard is going to be the production stack guard, but it sticks out a little bit more, just like it does on the 579s and the 567s. But the other thing I noticed too is if you look at the grab handle here, it's right in line of sight of the mirrors. I do really like the actual mirrors that they put on here. It's nice that they tilt now. So if you're doing a blindside back, it's going to be really good for that. On this side here, I wanted to point out something. I'm curious how much of you guys who are driving 579s and 567s, how much you use this mirror. I found it not useful. It's just not there when I'm driving it. I don't make it a point to look in there. I think that most of the experienced drivers just kind of always know where the cars are around them. So from another upfitting perspective, down here, there's quite a decent angle that comes over off the bottom of the breather, and you can see how the breather is tucked in right here. So there's going to be some angles that come off. Your cowl panel is still a bolt-on cowl panel like the 389, so I'm guessing that there's going to be something that's going to be able to fit under there, a nice little filler panel that's going to be able to go through there, which is pretty sweet. Steve talked about this one too. It's not a bad little accent. You take this off the same way that you take off your 389 lids. The good thing is you've got to change your breather. Now that it's pushed forward a little bit, you don't have to take it out. I'm curious, because I know I've done lots of chopped. I would imagine we're not going to be able to chop these as far as we used to in the past. The other challenge might be too, see if you can see that flat angle in the back. So these are going to be more difficult to chop down. Not that it can't be done, it's just going to take more fab work. I don't know if this is going to be a production thing, but this, I used to call it the tallywhacker, the S-bar exhaust. Well, they don't have an S-bar on this one here, but you can see it's still the standard routing, standard tubing I should say. They just made it come out and look a little bit nicer. So hopefully that is a production thing. One of the other things that I think is pretty rad is now we have rounded corners on our 80-inch sleeper. And this was why a lot of you guys were going with the smaller sleeper, is because you like them nice rounded corners. But when we do your custom paint, I am betting that Peterbilt is going to go ahead and wrap that paint all the way around the truck, which is pretty sweet. So I'm really excited about that, because you know, a lot of guys want the bigger sleeper, but they also want it to look cool. So from a side perspective, that is an 80-inch sleeper. This truck is a 273 wheelbase, and I'm guessing that they didn't, you know how most 389 guys and 379 guys want their alignment correct on their tanks. That's something that we're going to do on vehicle layout and make sure everything's nice and clean. But since the sleeper and the truck is a little bigger, even at a 273 wheelbase, this one looks just slightly smaller. It's going to be the same as a 389. We can go up to a 280 wheelbase before we have to put a sleeve, a 10-foot frame sleeve in, or a full sleeve. Two-tone seats. I'm still trying to get more information and more pictures on what the two-tone seats are. This one is, I believe it to be the sandstone, but this almost looks green. I don't know how closely it mirrors the actual stuff, so I don't know if it's going to be the same as far as the production units are concerned. And then if you have questions about the Legendary package, we can talk about that. But I would say, for me personally, I would prefer the Atlas seats. This truck has about 5,500 miles on it. These ones will offer you the ventilated seats and the heated seats if you wish. So, all right, so from the cab, if you sit in a 389, you just don't see that angle quite as much. So you can see where that 4 inches is gained. You have 4 more inches inside the cab, left to right. 8 inches total over the 1.8 meter cab. So being a taller guy, from a driver's perspective, I can't sit on the floor like a lot of guys can. My legs are too long and I got back issues. But I think that this thing with a 14-inch drop is going to be sweet. It'll be perfect for the taller guys, especially if you just don't want to sit on the floor anymore. For those of you guys who want to sit on the floor, I'm guessing you might want to see if you'd want to go with a bigger visor. So it did take a little bit of getting used to for me to get used to, or to get acquainted with the hood being kind of swept out. I drove this truck for about 250 miles, and it was, by the time I'd had enough seat time with the truck, it was pretty good. I actually really came around. Now, the one thing that I did notice is if you got to sit up on your seat and try to look down to your light pod, it's a little bit more difficult to see your light pod. The fit and finish and the 389 wiggle of the hood is actually pretty nice. It still has that traditional wiggle. And one of the things that Peterbilt got right, that I was one of the big people complaining about not having the split windshield. The reason is because in cold weather, typically the tips of the windshield wipers over here, mostly over here, they freeze up all the time. But now that they got the vents going all the way across, I think that that's going to be a huge plus. So again, like I said, I feel a little small in this truck. But the nice part is I'm 6'1" and I'm standing up in a sleeper and not touching my head. Can do the nav and everything else. That was the other feedback, is there were guys just saying, hey, I'd like more gauges. Okay, so sleeper options, I'll talk about that again real fast. We got a 72-inch flat top coming, and I am super excited about that because it is going to have a stock fridge. What I've been told about that fridge is it's going to be located on this side of the sleeper. So June 2024, we will have a flat top with a stock fridge in it. So 58-inch sleepers, you can actually get a 58-inch sleeper. There's a miniature desk, pull-out desk that comes with that. And then over on this side, especially like in a flat top, if you don't have this, there's an open top cooler that you can get. It's a factory powered open top cooler. One of the other cool things about this truck, I'm going to turn on the key real fast, but I believe that I can actually put a rear window in the back of the sleeper now. I'm going to play with these 80-inch ones here a little bit. I got a gentleman coming in to check them out. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. But of course, if you like the 72 stand-up, we can do the 3-window sleeper as well. This one does have the ambient light package. So you can see here, you can dim it. I did drive this truck home in the dark, in a rainstorm. Windshield wipers, all that stuff worked really great. You can hear a little bit of noise off of the drop visor, but having this ambient light in the back of the sleeper, and then there's the ambient light actually glows underneath here. You can kind of see it right there. It is nice to have just a little bit of lighting in here that's stock from the factory. So those are just a few things from a driver's perspective that I just kind of noticed about the 589. It rode just like a 389, real smooth. And overall, the fit and finish, I think, on the production units is going to be really great. And I'm pretty excited about it. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll talk to you all soon, and stay tuned for more information.